So here's what I'm doing. Got these boards, cheapest wood you can find, 1x4s, about $2 a piece for an 8-foot board. And I start by staining them with a very dark stain. You can use any color you want, but start with an espresso Minwax. There it is. And just get a rag and some gloves and stain these plain boards. They're already cut, and just start with the plain old pine, knotty pine, cheap wood. You can see that I have an old t-shirt and gloves. These aren't the best gloves, but I didn't have any of the disposable ones. But these mostly keep the stuff off your hands. And you just stain however you want. You can use a paintbrush too if you want. There's no rhyme or reason to, there's no precision to this anyway. You just got to get the stain on the wood. Imperfections are fine because you're trying to make it look weathered. So you just get the stain on at the darkness level that you find suits your taste. So here I have some white latex paint, and I'm just going to pour a little bit of water in there and use my rag, same rag, doesn't matter, it's all going in the same place. Kind of mix it around a little bit. You could use a stick, stirrer, official stirrer, but this is just, I just kind of approach it pretty willy-nilly. If it's too thick and too white, you can pour a little more water into it, but it's really to your taste and to your liking. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of swab it onto the boards. I do try to go with the grain a little bit, but other than that, it is the whole point is to be irregular and imperfect. This is a much easier technique to me than tearing apart a pallet and trying to sand it down and make it usable in something that you're building. So here we go. I'm gonna start. Get my glove back on, even though I've already stained my hand. Just grab a piece of this wood and just rub it across there. And I'm finding that might be a little too white. So what I'm going to do is pour a little more water in, and I'll probably just pull some of that off of there. And what it gives you is a board that looks kind of like that. And you do want to be careful not to let your paint drip on or drop on, because the paint droplets kind of give it away that this board was not weathered. So here we go, and we started with dark stain, as on that side and right here, and then with a little bit of reflections are kind of ruining it for you, but just a little bit of whitewash gives it a weathered look. And there you go. So now that wood that was originally just stained, I used some latex paint. Actually, it was latex primer, but it doesn't matter what it is. It's just white paint, but you could use any color really. Just dilute it with water and then just rub it on. And if it's not weathered enough, you can always go back and grab a little more of your white paint and give it another swipe or two to give it that nice old reclaimed lumber look. It doesn't take very much time at all. This whole thing maybe took me 30 minutes from the time I grabbed the boards. Did a tiny bit of sanding just to keep everybody that sits on the bed from getting splinters. And then I stained it with the dark stain. Gave it 2 seconds to dry, really, not any time at all. It's not necessary to really let it dry. And then I diluted some white latex paint with water and and use the same rag, same old t-shirt rag. Put some gloves on and just picked up each piece of wood individually, rubbed it with the grain, and now you can see that it looks a little more weathered than it did. And the bed is finished. And over here, got a space for a mattress underneath. If you want the wood to look a little bit more distressed or a little bit lighter, this is the same technique with the same colors, just a little bit less diluted water. So the other bed is a much darker, still weathered looking, but the water, there was a lot more water in that white paint. This approach is just a tiny bit, maybe about half the water that I used on the other. So you can try different mixes of water for slightly different results.